Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Atlas. Atlas is a science fiction action movie that tells the story of Atlas Shepard, an analyst in the future who harbors a deep mistrust of artificial intelligence following a rebellion instigated by a robot named Harlan who killed millions of innocent people before leaving the planet. Atlas learns of Harlan's location on a planet in the Andromeda Galaxy and insists on joining the military mission to capture Harlan. However, the team is ambushed, leaving Atlas stranded on the planet and forced to trust the AI on her combat mech so that she can save humanity. The idea of a robot apocalypse movie has been done countless times before, and unfortunately this is another one to add to a list of mediocre copycats. It does have some thought-provoking moments and the action is entertaining enough, but the dull story and characters hamper it. Jennifer Lopez plays the lead role of Atlas, and I'm conflicted as to how I should rate her role here. In terms of performance, she does a fantastic job in nailing the right emotional cues for the right moments, but in terms of how she's written as an eccentric scientist, she's too generic to bother getting invested in. I like how she has some degree of backstory in wanting to avenge her family following Harlan's rebellion, and how it explains her wariness of AI, but it's not enough to elevate her character. She's simply a vehicle to move the story along to whatever plot points have to come, which is fine, but it's far from riveting. There's only a few other supporting characters that stand out, the first of which is Smith, the AI of the mech that Atlas uses. I enjoyed seeing the relationship of these two build over time, as her emotions clash with its logic, and yet she's forced to trust it over time. I just enjoyed the power struggle between them with everything else going on. However, these two don't really go in depth with their discussions much. It's all surface level mumbo jumbo about whether AI or robots are living things or not, and the movie's script isn't subtle with how it addresses issues like this, as it pretty much spells everything out in dialogue. The other character I sort of liked was the terrorist Harlan, who's played by Simu Liu. Out of all the AI characters, he's the only one who feels like he's trying to be a cold machine devoid of empathy for humanity, and I appreciated how his character didn't let their history with Atlas get in the way of their mission. Every other character in this movie is a bit of a wash if I'm being honest. The military characters are overly cocky, the AI characters behave weirdly human in their emotions and mannerisms for some reason, and nearly all of them have dialogue that's wooden at best and cringeworthy at worst. The story is just as lazily as the characters are. It's yet another bland end-of-the-world scenario in the same vein as Terminator, where robots kill and take over everything, made only slightly unique by the fact that Harlan has an endgame in motion. Even with this distinction though, there's a ton of plot holes left unanswered. I don't want to get too much into the story for the sake of avoiding spoilers, but I was dumbfounded at some of the gaps it left. It doesn't properly handle Harlan's epiphany for when he becomes a terrorist, doesn't explain why he suddenly stops his rebellion, and doesn't explain why he waits 28 years for his big moment. Even Smith's AI is inconsistent with his knowledge at times. Everything about it story-wise feels like a mess. And it's not like I think this movie doesn't have good ideas regarding its themes. It poses a lot of interesting questions about the nature and role of AI in a human-led society, and how our hubris differs from the perfectly logical thinking of something else like AI. The problem though is it barely delves into the subject. Like I said before, pretty much everything is spelled out in character dialogue. Nothing is left open to audience interpretation, to the point it feels like the screenwriters are directly talking to the audience. It feels ham-fisted, forced, and repetitive, and the ideas presented about humanity undoing itself aren't even original. The only remotely original concept I got from it was how humans and AI can potentially combine to create something unique altogether, using the Neuralink devices that pair people up with their mechs. I like this idea a lot, and I was eager to see how the movie would build from it, but it remained shallow like everything else. The main reason to watch this movie is purely for entertainment, and it at least gets that part right when it comes to the action. The action scenes are plenty in number, have a number of tools to enjoy from the mech, and are always intense. Almost every action scene has some form of explosion in it, and while it is superficial, I can't help but enjoy it. Another thing I like about the action is the violence. Even though it's technically a PG-13 movie because the enemies are robots, this gives the filmmakers full reign to show all kinds of mutilation directed at them. Limbs are ripped apart, heads are crushed, it's complete mayhem, and it makes the action feel more realistic and immersive. I also like the planetary setting the movie takes place in, at least from what's shown of it, just because it's a nice break from the usual Doomsday on Earth narrative. However, these moments were few and far between because for most of the movie's runtime, the perspective is set inside Atlas's mech. I'm not opposed to movies being set in confined spaces for the majority of their runtime, as they can work well if events are paced well enough. However, even with what happens outside the mech, most of it is spent inside of it, which means the audience has to endure a lot of trivial banter between Atlas and Smith, which isn't everyone's idea of fun. Like I said though, the production design of the planet and even what is seen on Earth is cool to see. It's clear a lot of effort went into representing a futuristic version of Earth embattled by AI terrorists, though unfortunately a lot of it is done through CGI, and not all of it looks good. When it's just about the sets, it looks great. When it's just the mech and robots, it's also fine. It's when there's lots of things going on at once that it becomes a complete mess. There's just something about how everything moves that feels janky and weird, even when considering that it is supposed to be about robots. It's the one thing about the action that I don't like, and it occasionally pulled me out of the movie. When it's all said and done, I don't have a proper idea of what this movie wants to be. It has a hard time deciding if it wants to be a serious-minded drama or a blockbuster action flick, so it awkwardly balances between both sides to its detriment. I like parts of what it was going for on both of these fronts, but they don't add up to a cohesive whole. Overall, Atlas is a derivative sci-fi flick that does the bare minimum in engaging its audience, both in entertainment and its messages. If you like action movies that have a modicum of subtext behind them without having to think too deeply into it, you might enjoy checking this out. The action scenes and parts of the themes are done well enough, but its unoriginal story and boring characters prevent me from enjoying it more than I'd like to. I'm not opposed to mindless entertainment, but I would rather the movie be committed to that approach instead of pretending to be smarter than it actually is. What did you think about this movie? Were you intrigued by its combination of drama and entertainment, or were you put off by it instead? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Atlas. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part where next time I review the Japanese anime film My Oni Girl. Bye bye!